Hello everyone. I've moved around to the side porch here at the Martin Van Buren National Historic Site in Kinderhook to talk to you a little bit about Wheatley's other poem from 1773 on the death of a young gentleman. This is very similar, well, somewhat similar to on the death of a young lady at age 5. Similar themes of trying to sort of give some comfort to the survivors, saying that the departed has gone to heaven. So let's take a look. On the death of a young gentleman. So a young gentleman. Now a couple of you asked if this guy died in war. I'm going to actually say no to that. Michelle asked about that because it's 1773, so there wasn't really any war going on. I think war here might be a metaphor for our war with Satan and darkness, which he won, and that is why he will go to heaven. Who taught thee conflict with the powers of night, to vanquish Satan in the fields of fight? Who stung thy feeble arms, who strung thy feeble arms with might unknown? How great thy conquest and how bright thy crown! War with each princedom, throne, and power is o'er. The scene is ended to return no more. So the gentleman who is deceased here, the power, the struggle with evil, and maybe with other people, is done. Oh, could my muse thy seat on high behold? So muse is her inspiration, and this idea that you're visited. Poets had this idea then, and some now, that you're visited by sort of a spirit to prompt you to write, and you're channeling the muse of inspiration. How decked with laurel, how enriched with gold. Oh, could she hear what praise thine harps employ, how sweet thine anthems, how divine those joys. So going up to heaven, to see God on the throne. The harps are often have long been associated with heaven. I don't think there's a mention of harps in heaven in the Bible. I don't think hell is mentioned as a fiery place where we wear ragged clothing in the Bible. These are all artistic interpretations of it through the centuries. If I'm wrong, somebody correct me, please. What heavenly grandeur should exalt her strain? What holy raptures in her numbers reign? To soothe the troubles of the mind to peace, to still the tumult of life's tossing seas, to ease the anguish of the parent's heart. So a young gentleman, so the parents are still alive. What shall my sympathizing verse impart? What will I tell these? Please, muse, tell me what to tell the grieving parents, the survivors of the young gentleman. Where is the balm to heal so deep a wound? Where shall a sovereign remedy be found? So even today, as long as there have been people living and dying, we've struggled with what to do with loss, and we're going to talk about it a lot this semester. You've all had losses. You're going to have more. How do you feel about something that's gone? This absence in your life, a person, a pet, a relationship, even certain symbols. How do you deal with that loss? And one way to deal with it, and again, your belief system is your own. Many people believe that there's an afterlife, and the person has gone to heaven, to his or her reward, to his or her glory. And that's certainly much more comforting than thinking the person is in the ground being returned to earth via worms and the composting process. Look, gracious spirit, from thy heavenly bower, and thy full joys into their bosoms pour. I wanted to read that, power. The raging tempest of their grief control, and spread the dawn of glory through the soul, to eye the path the saint departed trod, and trace him to the bosom of God. There's a lot going on in that poem. I can't claim that it's one that I understand as well as many other poems we're going to talk about this semester, but it's clear enough that Phillis Wheatley is sort of channeling a muse to tell the survivors, that maybe the parents of the young gentleman, that he is now in the bosom of God. And of course, this poem would have been very comforting to people. People die today all the time. But death in the 18th century, 19th century could come much more quickly. You could literally cut yourself shaving with a rusty razor, not a good thing to do, and be dead in 2 weeks. You could be healthy on Sunday, have an infected tooth on Tuesday, and that infection could go through your whole body and you're dead the following week. You could get thrown from a horse and be killed. Life expectancy was very, very short. When Phyllis Wheatley was alive, maybe 40, 50 years. And that is, if you made it to adulthood, you could make it to 40 or 50. We'll talk more about childhood mortality a little bit later. So, we are still very consumed with death. I don't know if there's still those zombie shows on TV. Is it Dancing with the Dead, Walking with the Stars? No, The Walking Dead. The Walking Dead was a TV show with zombies. Dancing with the Stars was a different show, I think. That is a contemplation of death, right? What happens to people? Do people become zombies? Police shows with murders. People playing video games where they get to shoot and kill other people. We still spend a lot of our time recreationally talking and watching about death. We're still very much interested in it. I'm not sure it's as healthy as we used to. As in the 19th century, I think it was more profound. I think a thoughtfulness. It wasn't this sort of glibness of that we see in media and video games today. But I'm getting a little off topic. So death shows up a lot in 19th century literature because it was common. It could happen anytime, and it should. Death is one of the most powerful and potent things that we live with. So just a few final words on Phyllis Wheatley. I hope you read how Phyllis Wheatley was recovered through history. It gives a little biography about her. It does say that she was freed on her return to Boston. Possibly that was the condition for her willingness to return in 17 manumission and the death 1774. Manumission is to be freed. 1774. So when she wrote to Washington, she was free, but still former slave is not too high up in the life social order. But she did raise herself up through her works. She's referred to in the article as America's first great poet, and writing about the Revolution to George Washington makes her almost like a poet laureate of sorts, and she is considered the founder of the African American writing tradition in this country, which is fabulous. Over the years, also many people, I think with a racist view, have said, well, she didn't really write them, and white people probably wrote them for her, and that's just terrible. And that same thing happened with a slave narrative that we're going to talk about later in the semester. Everybody has editors and helpers with their writing. Professional writers have. So to me, she's a very original voice, and I think it's terrible that people have called that into question. I think there's an agenda there. But at any rate, Phyllis Wheatley is fabulous. And I'm going to try to drop a slide in right here. I hope that went in, of a statue of Phyllis Wheatley and two other women whose names escape me as I sit here on the porch at Martin Van Buren's house. And the statue, I think I mentioned in another video, is in Boston, where Phyllis lived. Miss Wheatley lived much of her life. So I hope you enjoyed your time with Phyllis Wheatley, and hope you enjoyed these YouTube videos, and I'll hopefully get a little smoother and more organized as my first outing, but I think it pretty well for a first outing. Keep up the good work, everybody, and I'll see you in the virtual classroom.